baseball streets. We got a few awesome contests up on Underdog, the dinger. We got some other ones, the frozen rope, the solo shot, the base hit. And we are going to go through this together. If you guys are new to baseball like me, this is the show for you. We're going to figure out what are the comps to football, maybe speak a language that we might understand and get caught up to speed as quickly as we can with a tutorial. And then we'll hop in a draft, see how we do. I'm Pete with the Badge Bros. Let's all become baseball bros today. Let's go. All right. We are back here off and on the clock, our regular new Tuesday afternoon edition. And as evidenced by today, we're going to hop around with sports. These Badge Bros are obviously multi-sport athletes. I'm sure we'll get into some hoops in the future. We'll definitely get into some football. But today, fellas, today is about baseball. And I know you guys are already pretty deep into the weeds on this. Should I be scared? Should I be excited? How should I be feeling?
You should be excited, Pete. You should absolutely be excited. I mean, I've said this on our show before, and I've said this to Nez before, but for the audience that's primarily football based, if I had to pick one game for the rest of my life to draft on Underdog, it would be Draft and Dingers. 100%.
Really?
It is kick your feet back. It is scroll around. It is draft whoever you want. It's throw ADP out the window. It's you get a sweat every single night of the regular season with just one lineup. It's truly built like anything, like differently than anything else on the platform.
I would have to agree. I mean, I think that drafting baseball definitely has some of the strongest edge, just because it's probably out of the three major sports. No disrespect to hockey here, is probably it's the least popular, the least grinded. And, I think there's a lot of edge for the guys that live and breathe this stuff like us. So I'm happy to, try to get you, impart some knowledge on UP. You've had some bangers in the past when we've done this.
Yeah, I feel like my solo teams have almost always been in the mix, at least from a sweat perspective. I know we got some insane closing line value in years past when we've done this. And yeah, so I'm excited to dive in. It will surprise no one that I don't think I can name more than a couple of baseball players right now. So I'm truly coming at this from a place of ignorance. So how about you? We're going to set the stage in a few different ways, but talk to me a little bit about kind of the overall meta on Underdog, because what I've seen is some conversation that there's almost some parallels to what has happened in the football ADP landscape.
Yeah, I mean, I believe one of those parallels you'd be referring to is kind of like the pitcher running back dynamic here, where the pendulum may have swung too far. Maybe that's one of the dynamics there. I think the biggest thing that I'd like to harp on that Nez was alluding to there is just how early we still are in baseball. It's like dialing the clock back on BBM 2. You know what I mean? Because we've had less iterations of full contest. There's just less scraping of data. There's less, there's less solved, I guess, in quotations, to paraphrase something from a Davis stream there. So I do think it's truly, the waters are nice and warm in here to just hop in for anyone.
Definitely. And I think too, like when we get into this, you're going to see, I think a lot of NFL best ball brain being copy pasted onto the baseball landscape with some of these players. We have quite a few players that are coming into the season injured, but are priced up due to their, if they're healthy when it matters, quote unquote, week 17, that's really what you're paying for. And I don't think we would have seen that in years past as much as we are now, as more and more as best ball becomes more popular and people understand what you're really playing for. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic in that way.
Yeah, and I think here, John, we can get this up on the screen. This is going to be something that helps us here be able to kind of walk through some of this stuff. Apologies, I haven't, updated my overlays to reflect a baseball preview. So let's just pretend this is the BR slate here. But yeah, let's let's go through it kind of from this football perspective, because I do think most people who haven't dived in, they're probably like me, have drafted a fair share of NFL best ball teams, but haven't been in these streets here. So what's the best way to translate some of these baseball equivalents to NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe starting with roster construction would be the best one. Nez, even more so than positional comps for me right now, because we have really seen a shift over the last couple of years in baseball where everyone kind of thought the zero pitcher 8-6-6 build, when we're talking about roster construction, will always go pitcher, infielder, outfielder. And that was kind of like the OG meta. And I think you could kind of like comp that to comp it to like zero RB of the past, where like people thought like a 2-7-7-2 was like the way to go kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now the pendulum has swung, and it's more where you spend capital of then how you build 7-6-7, 7-7-6, 6-7-7 sometimes. Yeah, I think that would be a good macro for me. Nez, what else you got on roster?
Yeah, I think like chalk build, you're probably looking at 7-7-6/7-6-7. I like to just call it sixes and sevens is really what you're looking for in the chalk roster construction. And obviously, we all are aware of the draft capital and how it can affect the number of players that you draft per position. So it's all draft capital dependent, obviously.
And I just pulled up the scoring settings here. I assume, are the scoring settings the same across all of these tournaments, or sorry, the roster settings?
Yep.
Yeah. So we got 3 pitchers that we start, 3 infielders, 3 outfielders, a flex, and then 10 bench spots here.
And it may or may not be obvious, but flex is only for infield, outfield. Pitcher does not flex.
Gotcha. So yeah, kind of in that regard, more kind of similar to a quarterback equivalent.
The pitching is weird, man, because it's sort of getting the running back treatment where like it's being devalued because of similar reasons, because of injuries, but it's also kind of like the onesies as well, where like you can find similar production, but there are separators. Pitcher is a very weird position, and it's being like heavily disrespected right now. And at any point in a dinger draft, like the best pick on the board is probably going to be a pitcher.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it really is like running back last year. It was just like, man, the values at running back are just in every single round.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
The one biggest thing that's different about running back and pitcher is it's way harder to break a slate from the pitcher slot than it is from the running back slot.
Yes.
So what is like the band of scoring? What's like a ceiling for a pitcher versus another position?
If you hop on over to me, I can show you right now with a tool that our guy Aiden built, and I'll drop it in the chat for everyone. It's called Sweating Dingers there, and you can kind of see from a weekly scoring standpoint.
Is this the BBMDB of baseball?
Essentially, yeah. So you could kind of see like some of these upper echelon numbers that stand out in a big way for like scoring of these hundreds and 90s and hundreds with pitcher. Like Strider's a bad example because he got injured last year. But like Corbin Burns, for instance, who sometimes would push up to like the 1-2 turn, but was a staple of like the second round last year. Like he didn't break 100 one time in an isolated week. And most of the times that he hits these big numbers here, the 70s, the 84s, the 92s, are because he simply has 2 starts that week. So what's happening with pitching here, Pete, is everybody's has week 17 brain where it's like, well, pitching doesn't really matter. All I really need is 2 starts in the finals. So, do I want them to be really good pitchers? Yes. But do I just want high ceiling pitchers to then start in the last 2 weeks? Yes. So it's a very interesting balance. But then there's outliers, like one that we put on the cover, Nez's boy, like Paul Skeens, where, his stuff and his strikeout rates and his ability is so good that over the course of a season, he might be able to perform and outperform that, second round tier.
Do you guys think you left some clicks on the table, not including Lizzie Dunn on that thumb with him.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we probably left a few hundred clicks off the board with that one. That's we're still learning.
So you mentioned week 17, Brain. The irony being the regular season MLB in this contest spans weeks 1 through 17. And then we have a round 2, weeks 18 and 19, a round 3, weeks 20, 21. And then the week 17 equivalent for baseball is weeks 22 and 23. And you're saying in these 2 weeks, you're trying to get what's the most starts you could theoretically get? Could you get 4 from a starting pitcher over 2 weeks?
No, I think 3 over 2 weeks. So the way it works is it's a 2-week period and it's accumulated week by week. So in 1 week after Sunday, that's the last day of the week, it resets, and then Monday through Sunday starts a new scoring period. So really what you are going to see is, and we've kind of talked about this, you probably want 3 or 4 2-start pitchers, and you can only use 3 pitchers at once, right? So you want like 2 2-start pitchers in 1 week, and then the next week 2 more. It's sort of like, it's tough because you can't really like talk about this and draft for this and strategize for it because it's all random. Like there's no way to predict who is going to have 2 starts in round 4, and it's sort of a bummer because like, it's like who cares at pitcher? Like I don't. Yeah, this guy can have a nice regular season, and that does matter. But like you have said at times, like it's 25% of the tournament. Like it honestly, it's kind of it makes it tough.
And I assume, like, teach me on how like rotations work, but it's like I mean, how often do the same 4 pitchers remain the rotation the whole year? Like, there's no way to anticipate, like, even if you knew it was these 4 pitchers, like knowing, well, what if one gets injured and then comes back and then it shifts the actual 4? Like, there's no way to actually pinpoint who is playing when this far in advance.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's little minute things we can do. Like we know certain teams will be running 6-man rotations, or we can forecast what teams are most likely to be in contention. So they'll have their best arms still going in theory later in there. Another one I could share here, Pete, if you pop over to me again there, is this is just the schedule for the last 2 weeks there. So I will drop that in the chat. I just did. Drop that in the chat for everyone there, so we can also forecast like what kind of ballparks and stuff like that, because not all things are created equal. And in week 17 we forecast potential tempo, or who could have a bad secondary, or who could have up tempo offense, this sort of thing. Well, we definitively know at least which ballparks are good for pitching and which ones are not, and vice versa for hitting there. So that's one little wrinkle that we can add in.
And how much of these dynamics, because that's what we always talk about too, like when the NFL schedule comes out, those week 17 correlations sometimes get priced in a little bit. Nothing normally too drastic, but maybe a guy gets pushed up to the turn because he's always getting stacked with a week 17 opponent. Like, is the ADP already kind of reflecting some of these schedules and, this kind of stuff about how friendly the parks are?
I don't think it factors in the schedules per se, because people will just like it'll price up certain stacking partners, which will happen. So like that would be like Baltimore, for instance. Like they don't have a particularly favorable schedule, but they're just expected to be a good offense, and it'll keep guys' ADPs tethered to certain areas because people are comfortable clicking those stacks together. Because I think another really big one is that stacks in baseball are considerably different than stacks in football because there's uncapped upside in them, right? Like if we go full onslaught with the Bengals, well, even in week 17, what's the most amount of touchdowns they could score? It's 5 or something like that. Whereas the benefits of stacking are cumulative in baseball, where it's like if you're in a good ballpark against a bad baseball team, and you get into their bullpen and eat up their starters early, I mean, you could score 15 runs back to back to back nights because the outs are,
You may not know this, Peter. There's no clock in baseball.
Yeah,
so they can theoretically go all night long and just continue to run up the score.
Couldn't be
me. Think they grow the game if they did have a clock where games ended in a set amount of time?
They could grow the game. They're working on it. They're working on it. I will say, at least, to kind of also answer your question, I am not personally taking the schedule into my drafting considerations yet. I do plan on it. For now, I'm still trying to familiarize myself with the landscape, certain stacking partners, just isolated players, and then I do plan on incorporating the schedule into some drafts. I don't want to overweight it, but I do think that it would be a mistake not to add that into the process.
How many drafts have you? Sorry, I gotta ask a question here, Pete. How many drafts have you done now, Nez?
I have done. Give me one
Just
second here.
Ballpark.
28.
28. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've done 25, and I'm on the complete other side of the pendulum there. So this would be pretty cool for me to go backdate these drafts, and then we can juxtapose and compare after, because I am full-fledged stack pilled, stack happy, and jamming spots that I like right now.
I was just going to say too, for people who are wondering about the timeline for this, I need to zoom out here a second, but this contest closes what, end of March? Did I see it was
March 27th?
March 27th. So about basically 5 weeks or so here left to draft. And how is there any analog to, the later you draft in NFL, the more information we get via the preseason, the depth charts, you can draft better teams, the closer to lock. Is that similar to baseball, or is the information more static?
I think it's definitely maybe another comp as to why pitcher could be running back or viewed as is because the pitching information we learn in spring training is so much more valuable than any other position. Like we'll learn, who wins a starting job or something like that in an infield or outfield, and it might matter and they might move like 10, 15 spots. But in baseball, for instance, like we could just use Frankie Montas already, who is a guy who is now, going to be shut down for a little bit with a lat injury. He was a late round darling for people because of Mets pitching staff and yada, yada, as a 20th round click. Now he's basically like unclickable. So stuff like that with extreme volatility will happen as we go through spring when people see, results don't matter as much. That's like a classic spring caveat. You got to know what guys are working on and that sort of thing. But there's definitely triggers like velo and, guys, having setbacks or being ahead of schedule, that sort of thing. But I don't think it should ever deter anyone from hopping in. Like, I don't think there's a distinct advantage or disadvantage to when you jump in.
Agreed.
Cool. John, you want to pull up that the NFL comps
yeah, sure.
thing again here? How about this? How good is the ADP? Should people be drafting off of rankings? John was mentioning the concept of stacking, which obviously could probably reduce some of the decisions you have to make in a draft. Where should someone, start if they are really going from scratch and want to dive into a draft? What are the, table stakes that they need there?
I think stacking, I guess trying to think about where to start here. Stacking is good. Stacking should be incorporated in people's drafts and roster constructions. Like John mentioned, the upside is immense with stacking, and it's very important in baseball because over the course of a week, if a certain team is popping off, you just get added benefits of having teammates, and you're seeing that big time. Shout out to Stacking Dingers. They just did like a very in-depth episode about stacking and its benefits, and you're seeing stacking happen more and more in drafts now. So that's definitely a big thing. And I think that another, like the starting point, if you're coming in off nothing, it's draft outfield early. I think that's going to be the easiest way to not have a bad team is give yourself like 4 outfield within 7 rounds, just like as like a loose rule of thumb. It's outfield's going to dry up really, really early. And if you're not savvy and understanding of some like nice, sleepers at outfield, you're going to be in trouble. Outfield goes really early, and it should, but there are ways to kind of counterbalance.
Yeah, I think that was really well put there, Nez. I think in terms of the ADP question, Pete, I think you can kind of just throw it out the window and start pairing profiles that you like about round 11 or 12. I'm obviously more liberal with the scrolls and the ball knowing aspect of things.
Shocker.
Where I'm very comfortable pairing like 4 20th round guys together that I think have spike week potential or can, win out platoon jobs or find more playing time than projection models will indicate kind of deal. So I do a lot of that sort of stuff there where that's kind of where I'm stack build right now, where it's like I'd rather just tack on a guy I think is going to hit sixth on a certain lineup and remain on that team who has some spike week potential, then I'd rather just take, the ADP target at 185, for instance. So I think it's really important in just knowing your roster construction. ADP is like knowing the pockets where pitcher will be, where outfield will be, where whatever. But then as soon as you hit a benchmark, it's very similar to like when we're playing NBA and it's like, hey, all these guys on a 12-game slate between pick 35 and 55 all project for 32 fantasy points. Pick your poison. That's kind of where I'm at. Safely, you could say past round 16. I'm willing to go earlier than that.
All right, Nez, how about like this kind of question? Just being honest with people if they want to dive in, like on a scale of, I think of NBA playoff best ball, NFL playoff best ball. Like if you know how to do playoff best ball, you don't actually have to know that much. Obviously it helps, like that provides you an edge, but what you're doing structurally is pretty simple to understand. And you could go execute that without knowing the eighth man on all of these teams. With MLB stuff, like how deep down the rabbit hole do you need to go to be good at this? Or is it possible to draft plus EV teams with not a ton of, say, research time investment? Because that would be a question I assume a lot of people would be wondering.
So I think you can be average without having a whole lot of knowledge. I think in order to be average, knowing the things that we've just said thus far, you need to incorporate projections, which are all publicly available. You don't have to pay for the best projections that you can get for this stuff. They're all located on Fangraphs. Draft Caddy has some of the more, one of the most popular projection models out there. It's free on Fangraphs. You can go and look and see how these guys project, and you get a really good idea of who's undervalued, who's overvalued using those projections. I think you can be average. I think there is an element to knowing like really highly touted prospects, knowing certain profiles, things like that. I think are always an edge, and maybe it's overstated, and I just think it's fun to try to be early on certain guys. But I think average is fair. But there is like when you get toward the ends of drafts, like even I end up getting like kind of tripped up a little bit with some of these guys. I do kind of have trouble parsing through some guys back there.
Well, there you go. Even Nez feels like a human at the end of the. Is it one of those things where you're like Googling like some stats and Google News try to figure out?
I'm on Fangraphs like all the time, like looking up players and looking up projections and how they performed and looking at their teams and stuff. Like this, Fangraphs is like I'm on Fangraphs all the time during baseball season.
Give people the content like resource toolbook. Shout out the Badge Bro show. Shout out our friends over at Stacking Dingers. You mentioned Fangraphs. What should be a part of the toolkit if you do want to dive into this?
What would you say, John? Because I mean, like for me, it's just like this entire website.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in lockstep with you. It's very different than football, where it's like all free resources too. Like basically every respected and good projection model in baseball, it doesn't have underdog scoring. You can port it out and figure that stuff out yourself. But they're staring us in the face right there in that green thing. Like I don't have to go pay for a leg up subscription. I don't have to go pay for ETR. It's all right there. So you can, mix and match that, then add some underdog scoring, and there's your projections. Then you can go jump over in this same, area, go to roster resource, just go click on the Blue Jays, for instance, and then you can start forecasting playing time for yourself. Okay, this is how they project the lineup. These are some of the players, and then you can go all the way through their minor leagues and that sort of thing there. So I think some combination of Fangraphs, the sweating dingers, the stacking dingers, and then baseball's sheet when it comes out, or the playoff schedule one that I already jumped in the chat there. And then I'm sure Easy has something else on the go too with a sheet of that was similar to last year with daily baseball. Those, I mean, you don't.
He does have a snarky. He does a snarky comment with Baseball Savant, which I think Baseball Savant is a fun resource as well. I think it can be overfit sometimes. Yeah. You say you're not going to tell the sickos that they can crank off on Savant. They do have some really cool information on there, like such as like a pitcher's velo and a batter's max exit velocity and average exit velocity. I just think sometimes it can be overfit. And I prefer, to at least to look at numbers or look at results and projections. But I'm sure that there's a a good way to utilize this without, kind of overfitting what these results are telling you.
I think there's
And
a really So I think there's a really good point in the chat right now. Turn Me Up is saying that like I think the biggest edge is fading platoon players that casuals don't know. I think knowing your schedule is for the tail end there, but also knowing like playing time and knowing what you're dealing with. Like there's a balance for every single roster, and I create very balanced rosters in my estimation. But like my whole thought process right now is when can I afford to add outlier ceiling to this roster so that if a player has a skill set or a profile that I like can fall into more playing time? Or when do I need an accumulator and I need someone who's consistently going to give me 550 at bats or whatever? And I think that's one of the biggest skill sets is balancing like, okay, I spent draft capital on this. Okay, now I need safe plate appearances here just for mean outcome scores and that sort of thing.
That's very analogous to NFL, right? You take the swing on a Jameson Williams, Kadarius Toney type, and then you got to come back and take your medicine with a Jacoby Myers, right, Nez? You got to bank some of those targets there.
Yeah. Very, very well said. Very well said.
The other thing you mentioned baseball sheet for people who don't know. So in the Deposit Kingdom Discord, there's a great baseball thread there. You guys can hop in there. Lots of people, sharp people playing these games at a high level, who are happy to answer your questions and get you caught up to speed as well. So I would take advantage of that. Even as a lurker, if you want to go in there and just read, I bet you would get a ton of knowledge there, and not to mention a lot of people who would be willing to help you out. So we got the links down to the Deposit Kingdom Discord there. There's a Badge Bros channel, and then there's a thread for baseball within that where you can find all of these goods. Let's see here. Let's do a couple more things here before we hop in a draft. What else do I need to know? I think we can do some of the player specific stuff when we're in a draft. How about this? One of the biggest leaks, for me last year in NFL best ball was building too many of the same structures over and over again. You mentioned kind of some optimal roster constructions. Is it just like, man, you really kind of have to do it this way to succeed? Or do you think there's room for a lot of different types of roster constructions where maybe you do go, pitcher early or whatever?
I think right now I'm trying to exploit what I deem inefficiencies in the market, and I've been building the very similar teams over and over again using different components of stacks and different player archetypes. But I've had, very balanced rosters where I basically start my pitching staff with someone like SP7 through SP13-ish. And then like that's kind of round if there's 6, 7, if you can get it to fall kind of thing. And that's been like the archetype of my builds for right now. And I think that's going to kind of like fix itself over the rest of the draft window here when pitcher inevitably pushes up, because pitcher will push up. I think that's one thing that we didn't really harp on is pitcher will push up because pitcher will get drastically thinner as rotation spots become more solidified, injuries come up, guys' velos are down, guys add new stuff to their repertoire, that sort of deal. So for me right now, I'm really good with starting a staff like that and building 6 or 7 pitcher. In the future, I'll get more creative and get outside my bounds when we have more information.
Yeah, I think for me, I am trying to get a little more unique with my roster constructions at this point in time, where I'm doing some builds where I have 6 infield within like 11 rounds or something, and it's like a very strong infield, and it's only 6 infield. I have some where I'm going 8 pitcher. I'm not going past 8 pitcher. And taking some aces that I think most people that I would consider sharp are not taking. For one reason or another. So I am like mixing it up, but it's mostly always, like a 6 or a 7 at the positions. And if it's an 8, typically it's 8 pitchers being taken. And just as a macro right now, my favorite last round positions to draft are in the pitcher and outfielder. I find late round infield to actually be kind of weak, which is like interesting because there are more infielders to draft than outfielders, just like by the sheer numbers. And there are, most of the time better hitters in infield. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. At least that's how I'm seeing things at the moment.
I think it's because more people this year, Nez, are drafting more infielders because it's become common knowledge that it's like, hey, I want to fill my infield with a flex. So I think people are taking more infielders this year than maybe perhaps in years past, where people thought they could get away with like 5 infielders or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that something, we have the pissing yellow on here. We have the piss boy rooms. I get worried about wide receiver avalanches. Are there positional runs when you guys are kind of observing a specific draft room and you're like, oh, I might need to deviate here because this room is particularly frothy for a position?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most obvious one is outfielder, and it's almost every single draft. So the comp to, piss boys and wide receiver slide makes a whole lot of sense. There are isolated pockets in the draft where I feel I need to get like starting pitcher pushed up a little bit sometimes if there's early runs on it, because I don't like building 7 pitcher staffs that don't have, at least a top 12 guy in my estimation. And we can debate till we're blue in the face, like which ones those guys are. But yeah.
I think in our when we finally hop in a draft, outfield is going to go really early. That's the definite, that's what's in vogue right now, is getting these outfielders early and often. And that has just become like, as wide receiver thirst has gotten more like worse and worse. That's how outfield is right now. I think it might have reached a fever pitch.
All right, guys. I think, the best way to learn is, for me at least, is on the fly here. I think we hop in a draft. However, I know I put in the description, I assumed we'd be doing a dinger, but you guys mentioned before the show, and I think it's an awesome idea, that we hop in one of these single entry contests. We got a few options in here. We got the frozen rope in the solo shot. I mean, what better, if I end up drafting one baseball team this year, and who knows, maybe I will become obsessed. Maybe I'll fall in love and I will have multiple shots. But as of right now, hopping in the solo shot sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah, these lobbies, awesome. These lobbies need filling too. So hopefully we can get up there. Obviously, you could see that it's only a 720 person field with single entry. So hopefully we could fill this. Oh, look at this thing go. We're easy.
Wow. No, I'm that bad that the say, wait, we're filling a solo shot?
yeah. Everyone's got the noties on right now. Well, Pete's doing what?
Well, some people, with NFL, right, are protective of their single bullets and be like, I want to backload that, to right before the season. But kind of like what you guys were describing, it doesn't seem like it's maybe as big of an edge relative to NFL to draft, super early.
Agreed.
Wow. Yeah.
No,
so
closer 1-1.
Oh, wow. So we got only one non-Badger in here. He was probably sitting in here from like 3 nights ago, maybe when the contest very first opened. Hopefully he has some solid ranks.
Yeah. Lots of friends and families here. Rest in peace, Iowa fan. You and me are in this together. All right. How about like late draft slot specific stuff? Like how top heavy is it? Should you be rooting for influencer 101s? Or are you guys kind of vibing wherever you get to pick because the pockets of the drafts work out well everywhere?
I don't mind drafting in the late rounds, Pete, but I mean, at the top of the board, the top 3 picks, you can even go top 4. These are some of like the best baseball players I think we might like ever see play baseball. So you would probably like to have a top 2 pick.
Okay.
Shohei is going to go down as probably the greatest player we've ever seen. And Aaron Judge is probably one of the greatest hitters I think we might ever see from the right-hand side of the plate, sans Mike Trout. But at least from a small sample size, those two are truly generational talents. So yeah, it helps to have a top 2 pick.
Oh, get your guys. Let's go, Turbotron. He goes, I'm going solo shot. I'm getting my guy, Jose Ramirez. Love that.
As a casual, extremely casual baseball fan, it will never stop blowing my mind of Ohtani. Like someone just drafted him 101 as an outfielder when he is like one of the best pitchers in baseball.
It's mind blowing.
Where would he go if he was classified as a pitcher?
This season would be tricky.
Yeah, it'd be interesting this year because he's coming back off of like Tommy John and stuff. I think a really good comp for him would be like ahead of rookie. So like SP like 12, SP. He like rookies like SP 18 and falls sometimes, but like kind of in that Michael King range, something like that, where it's
Okay,
like, would
so
you
not
rather have
near as valuable as of an asset.
if we could project a full workload and he was healthy and he was going to pitch 170 innings, he belongs in that, Zach Wheeler, Dylan Cease, like that tier for sure.
Yeah,
Which
fully
is
healthy,
the
no
crazy
limitations.
thing about it.
He's one of the best.
Man,
It's unbelievable.
So I just realized, I'm getting flashbacks to last year. Corbin Carroll, I believe, was the guy we got insane CLV on. Didn't we take him in like the 4th or 5th, and then he closed as like a 2nd or 3rd?
That was the first year we did this, I think, with all
Okay.
of us. I want to say it was his rookie season, so 2 years ago. Maybe it wasn't our first year. I thought it was, but yeah, we because he was a hot topic. Like, do you draft Corbin Carroll early? Like, can we really do this? And we sure did, and it paid off.
So we're about to be on the clock now. If I listen to Hayden and Josh, and they tell me to just draft good players on good teams. I mean, aren't the Dodgers the runaway MLB champ favorites? You just got to take Mookie Betts, good players on good teams, fellas.
Do it. I mean, Mookie Betts was a top 8 pick last year, top 7 pick last year. He's going a little bit later now because of the infield eligibility instead of outfield. But yeah, I think you don't want to fall behind this outfield cliff here. So I think maybe Mookie with one, and then maybe one of these top outfielders with the next.
All right, who should I take? All of these names are gibberish to me. Nez, get me excited about one of them.
Kyle Schwarber hits bombs, and he's a good player on a good team. Julio Rodriguez, good player, mid-team. Jarren Duran, good player, but we've only seen it once. I think Schwarber's your pick here, but Jarren Duran is like my daily darling. I probably drafted more Jarren Duran than anybody else on the platform last year during dailies.
Now I feel like I made a mistake because if I go to my one game at Fenway a year, to be able to have gotten to watch my solo shot squad IRL, we got to get me one Red Sox. Mookie Betts as a former Red Sox does not count.
There you go.
You got to get me one on here to sweat IRL at some point this year.
Counterpoint, Pete. Chicks dig the long ball, and Kyle Schwarber hits a fuckload of them.
Yeah, maybe the counterpoint is what team is he on? Phillies. I just have to go see the Phillies in town.
Not far away.
There you go.
Yeah, you can even make a day. You can make a day trip out of it. Go to the bank. They call it.
Okay. Anything else? You mentioned this Jose pick deviating a little from ADP. I mean, do people skew to ADP pretty tightly at the top of these drafts?
I would say only with the first 4 picks, and then people kind of mix and match whatever. Like Yordan almost fell to you at 11 or 12 there. Some people are super in on Yordan, some aren't. Some are super in on Tatis, others aren't. Kyle Tucker's moving teams here, so some people are in and out on him. So it's really fluid dynamic through the next end of that draft board, but I think the first 4 are pretty solidified. So the Jose Ramirez one was kind of like taking Amon-Ra, I guess, over Justin Jefferson and over those guys. Okay. It's like we've seen it. He's good. We know he's a stud, but the ceiling might not be the same as some of those other guys.
Pete, when you were going on about Shohei, you opened that up with, it will never blow my mind that. And I thought, do you know what Jose Ramirez looks like?
No.
I thought you were going to say it blows my mind that Jose Ramirez steals 40 bases and is one of the best baseball players in the sport, given his stature.
So this is how much does this dude weigh? He's not your typical stolen base guy, it looks like here.
You would not expect a guy of his stature to be such an athlete, but this is baseball for you, man. He steals like 40 bags a year.
He looks like he should be a DH, right?
Yeah, and he's a great defender. He's the man.
If you put him and Rafael Devers beside each other, you'd be like, same dude, Spider-Man meme, but one steals 40 bags.
Yeah, same build type.
Same build type.
Can't judge a book by its cover.
No, you cannot. Yeah, so Jose is awesome.
So these running I literally said running back.
I love it.
These pitcher picks are the fine. Screw it. I'll take Derrick Henry at pick 20 kind of thing here.
In terms of ADP, they're more like quarterback, with an elite quarterback. And it's like, oh man, how far are we really going to let Josh Allen fall here? But in terms of like output and production and injury risk, they're more like running back. So it's a really interesting dynamic.
All right, we are about to hit the 2-3 turn. We started with Mookie and Kyle Schwarber here. Any positional stuff we need to be considering? Or are we still kind of BPA here?
You're definitely going to probably want to. Outfield's typically one of the better positions at this tier. I do think it gets pretty thin if you miss out here. I'm not going to make you take Brian Reynolds. I think that we can get way more exciting for you on here. He's a Pirate, so
I picked that up pretty quickly there.
But we can get exciting for you. Screwball falling, if he does continue to fall, would be intriguing because he normally does not fall all the way here.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of like woo what he's saying in the chat there, where it's like this outfield range does feels so blah, you know?
Yeah. I can respect it.
Like if I'm sitting here on my own, like without a doubt in my mind, period, I'm taking Alonso and Riley and just putting them together, like without even thinking.
And
I do like Austin Riley.
Why do you say those two together? What's the correlation?
No correlation. It's just Alonso's still underpriced from when he was a free agent. I mean, he's got 50 home run potential. Austin Riley's one of the best hitters in baseball. And all the other guys going around them are just like only there because they're outfielders.
That they're already pushed up. It really is the wide receiver equivalent.
Yeah.
But if you want to get stack happy, like you could do like Michael Harris with it and tell yourself a story of two Atlanta guys together or something. But like I would just take Alonso and we'll figure it out later.
Let's have some fun. Let's take Alonso.
Yeah.
So this is like when you keep grabbing all the running back value and you say, all right, we'll just figure it out later. Yep. We're going to draft Rashad Bateman and we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
exactly. The one difference is like, you know, the reason why outfield is pushed up is mostly just because of scarcity. But you know, in terms of NFL best ball, you know, you're starting 3 wide receivers. So, you know, that's part of why, but you do start the same amount of infielders as outfielders plus the flex. So it's I think it is a little just slightly gone off the deep end just a little bit because like you're starting 4 versus 3. It's not necessarily 3 versus 3 like in NFL. So I'm personally trying to win flex with infield.
Is there a half PPR analog in baseball?
I would have trouble pinpointing one. Maybe the fact that like some slap hitters go kind of high that don't hit home runs, and so their ceilings are not as high and don't hit quite as frequently. I think would probably be that. Like the home run is king here. Like you can go up to the plate, hit 4 singles, go 4 for 4. Awesome feat, you know, no runs, no ribbies. And then a guy will come up and hit 1 home run and he could have no hits before that and outscore you. You know, a solo home run greater than 4 singles is kind of really all you need to know, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing about the archetype of players is it's easier to project home runs than it is to project touchdowns in football. So it's like we can just cross certain dudes like right off our board instantly if we don't want to chase like those kind of like profiles.
Beautiful. Thank you everyone tuning in today as I get my crash course in MLB. If you guys aren't subscribed to the YouTube channels here, make sure you do so. We got a co-stream here on the Badge Bros channel and on my channel. You guys will be doing, I assume, regular daily best ball coverage when those contests start at the start of the season. And what kind of other MLB content do you guys have planned for the coming, weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be doing everything there, and then we'll be walking through ADP shifts and stuff like that as spring training is right around the corner. Starts on Thursday. Thursday's a loaded day. We got hoops coming back. We'll hit on that. Start of MLB spring training with just one game, which is Dodgers and Cubs, which is a preview of what's going to be the Japan series that'll kick off the season again this year. And then, we got that 4 nations, Canada versus US. It's a loaded sports day on Thursday. But, yeah, we will be doing everything Dinger all the way up to a lock here.
And Nez, you draft those. You've been drafting the no strip dinger streams right on Friday nights for the members.
Yeah, that's always been that's been a lot of fun. So we'll continue to do that. I might throw in some dance drafts this coming Friday because I've been doing a lot of NBA best ball as well. While I think that landscape is in its current stage, so we'll be doing all sorts of best ball drafts. It's a good time of year right now. It's a great time of year, in fact.
Yeah, I'm excited to get in the NBA best ball streets. Haven't done my first draft yet, but maybe next week we'll do an off and on the clock NBA dance themed show. I would look forward to that. All right, here's the team through 4 rounds. We're about to pick at the 5-6 turn. We got Mookie Betts and Kyle Schwarber were our first 2 picks, and then we came back here and got Austin Riley and Pete Alonso double tapped infield. 3 infielders and an outfielder as we head to 5-6, and similar to the wide receiver dynamic, not a lot of yellow at the top of the board here. What's the most infielders we would draft on this team?
6, maybe 7.
Yeah, probably 6. Probably 6. Depends on what we do at these next 2 picks.
Okay. Are there some wish list items for this team here?
Let's scroll a little bit here and see what's going on. We're a little like the bands of ADP per pick in like football, it would be like a reach if you reached like 12 spots right here. In baseball, it's like if you reached 20, I'd be fine with it. But we're not going to. But
do you want to do Castellanos here for the stack?
I'm not a big Castellanos guy, but I know your propensity for outfield. Like I would do Ozzie Albies and stack that with Riley before I did Castellanos.
Okay. Let's put Albies at the top.
And then I really like to start your staff right here. But Christian Yelich stands out to me as a stud. So if we want to push pitcher, Albies and Yelich would be my 2 picks.
Let's do Yelich. This will be a little bit boring. But I think Yelich is like definitely the pick here. He's very much undervalued. This was like a 3rd round pick last year. And he has an injury history and he got hurt last year. But if he's healthy, which is like, not a very easy bet to make for hitters, to bet against the health, which is what the ADP is telling us, is that he will not be healthy this year. But if he is healthy, he's a great pick. Just a phenomenal pick, to be honest.
And he's swinging already. Yeah.
The chat, including your father, is pretty upset at you not touting one Mr. O'Neal Cruz, a man that I even recognized from Nez's Instagram feed stories at points last year.
Yeah, I will definitely repost all the O'Neal Cruz content. It was tough because we already had 4 infielders, and I didn't want to like do it for the meme and ruin this team. But you will see me take O'Neal Cruz as early as pick 50. I think the sky is the limit for O'Neal Cruz. I think he has such a strong weekly ceiling, which is really what we care the most about. And he hits tanks too. He hits balls as hard as these generational talents and Aaron Judge, over 120 miles per hour off the bat. And he can steal some bases too. He's just a lot of fun. It's just the Pirates, make me severely depressed if I talk about them or think about them for too long. So I couldn't do it. All those factors combined.
Wait, their outlook isn't good this year?
Would you believe it if I told you it wasn't?
I mean, they have the cover boy. How could a team with the cover boy be bad?
Yeah, and the GM has been there for 6 years now, and he's still in the middle of a rebuild and has a generational pitcher, and he couldn't put a good team together. Interesting work.
Wow, I poked the wrong bear here.
It's okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop there.
O'Neal Cruz is fun as fuck though. Like the combination of him and Skeens will just keep you watching that team every single day.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like the power speed combo, like his what Nez was saying there is he actually had the hardest batted ball in all of baseball last year, so it was harder than the Stantons and the Otanis of the world.
That's a fun thing. I feel like I normally hear it discussed for like NBA, like if you get league pass, like who are the funnest teams to watch? Who would be your guys' like top 2 or 3 MLB teams? If you could only watch a couple teams play, who would that be?
Well, I think you have to start with the Dodgers because it's just so damn loaded. It's like the stone cold chalk, but like I guess maybe but maybe we'll give like one chalk answer and then like one contrarian answer kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like watching the Reds. Ballpark always plays up for runs and home runs. They have some sneaky fun arms, and then they got Ellie De La Cruz, and yeah, I like watching the Reds. Reds would be my my contrarian answer, and the chalk would be the Dodgers.
Yeah, for me, I think I'll start with the contrarian is the Oakland Athletics. I've been tracking the Oakland A's for quite a while, and they actually have some really fun pieces right now, some fun young pieces as well. So they have potentially one of the most fun players in baseball, to rival Ellie in Lawrence Butler, who's an outfielder. He's just electric and has some of the biggest spikes in baseball last year. So he's a lot of fun. He's my contrarian answer. And my chalkish answer, I think is the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox have like a really, really fun offense. And I love whenever they're in Fenway. It's just like runs galore there with the way that park is set up. So the Red Sox are my chalk MLB at bat answer. And I will say, we're obviously not sponsored by MLB at bat. MLB at bat is like tremendous product. For all of MLB's faults, MLB at bat is just like chef's effing kiss for the summer.
It's crazy that the sport that most people care the least about has by far the best streaming product.
Not even close.
Like it's not even remotely close.
Is it like a red zone type thing? What is MLB?
You can make it like that.
Well, they have MLB Big Inning, which is their iteration of Red Zone. It's not as well hosted or well crafted, but it's there every single night. So you can watch Red Zone every single night for baseball. So that does exist, but like the actual streaming product is by far.
Yeah, if I'm able to sit at my desk and watch baseball at night, I'm a big quad box with like one ISO game on. It's great, and exactly. The fun part, the thing that really stims me is whenever you get 4 pitchers throwing a pitch all at once. That's
Well, Nez, very excited that you're being a kid you're having a kid, because otherwise I would say you guys should come out here for a Red Sox game and we could go watch one of the sneaky fun teams in person.
Bria's got it. My wife's got that. She's good.
No, she's good. Yeah,
see you, babe.
All right, we're about to pick at the 7-8 turn here. We got 4 infielders, 2 outfielders, all of the top available players via ADP. Our pitchers here. What should we be considering?
This is where I love to start my staff, and I would just double tap two outlier pitchers here. That's kind of what I would do. Des, what do you like?
Yeah, I think the pitching is good here. Do you want to go Kirby, or I like Michael King?
I like both. I think they're both a little bit ahead of the tier below too, because I do think the innings are safer with them both than like Yamamoto and some of these other guys. It's kind of boring to stay the top of ADP, but when you start a team the way in which we did, I think this is kind of like the dream scenario is for like 2 quote unquote studs at the pitcher position to come back to you.
Yep. And these guys both have the added advantage of pitching in great home parks. So assuming their starts line up, half their starts are going to be advantageous for them to not be giving up runs, not be giving up home runs. It's a pretty big deal. These guys are both like top in park factors when it comes to pitching, as opposed to Boston, where Boston's like the hardest place to pitch because they have the green monster, and it just turns routine flyouts into doubles or singles like all the time. So it helps that they have good parks, and they're also just great pitchers on their own.
Another little added context for that, like we don't love the first week of the Padres schedule because they do have to go to Coors. But they get to play the Reds and the Rockies for 7 games in the second week of the playoffs there, and then Seattle is at home for 7 games in the second week of the playoffs, and they get what we assume to be lowly Cardinals and Angels. So they both have nice last week playoff schedules, all with 7 games.
Wow, dude, I'm gonna start counting my $10,000 now. This room really fucked up. They came here to bum hunt, and they got taught a lesson, letting that pitcher value fall right into our lap here. Michael King, George Kirby for the audio listeners. Our pitchers, Mookie Betts, Austin Riley, Pete Alonso, Ozzy Albies in our infield. And then just 2 outfielders. Man, can you imagine being through 7 rounds here, 8 rounds, and only having 2 wide receivers, Kyle Schwarber and Christian Yelich here? Can we dig ourselves out of this outfielder avalanche?
Boy, I hope so. Our work might be a little cut out for us, but I think we can do it. This is definitely 7 outfielder on this one for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's a conversation that we should have and do like a full outfielder preview later this week or whatever. But like, man, like just clicking names, like I see the ceiling with like Dylan Cruz, obviously, like he's a stud prospect. Like Colton Cowser could be hard pressed for playing time, but like he's obviously he was pretty close to winning AL Rookie of the Year last year, like stuff like that. Like all these outfielders, like it just feels so blah, and I'd way rather have the stud setup that we have now and then patchwork it later.
Yeah, I think when it comes to who's the better click, I fully agree. It feels scary. It does feel scary, just like because you just like blanket the draft capital of the players and not really looking too much into the profile. So it does feel scary, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, these pitchers would normally be going like 2 rounds early, like as early as last year. The pitching push down is really something else.
But then we have seen like a pretty big run on it here in the 7th and 8th round. It feels
this is definitely agrees. That as our friends Tom and Tyler would call it, the glory hole for pitching, for sure.
Glory hole. There you go. All right. So yeah, is it a thing with is there a similar principle to like the quantity or quality, not both? So we'll be having to make up for outfielder with kind of spray and pray quantity.
Yes and no, because like there's still some profiles that like we really like that are back here that you can tell yourself stories about that could still be top 40 output players. I think that's one thing that's different is like in football, there's way more like scatter shot, and it's like, yeah, we hope to get usable weeks from this guy. But like in baseball, it's like, no, there's still an outlying possibility that like, just because of the depth of player pool and number of total players, that like this guy who was going in the 3rd round last year is still available, or this guy who was going in the 2nd round last year is still available, that we can just like tack onto this team and be like, what if he did hit ceiling?
Well, at what point did you guys talk about stacking? Like at what point, how much is that correlation boost worth? Because that's always something we talk about in football, right? Where it's like, obviously, if you're breaking ties, you're going to take the wide receiver tied to your quarterback. And oftentimes you're pushing that guy up around 2 rounds. Maybe you start doing 3 rounds and it's like, all right, relax. You don't need Rashad Bateman with Lamar that bad. How much does stacking come into play, and what is the premium you should pay for
it? Good.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the premium that you have to pay for it isn't always juice worth the squeeze, because if you're just pushing up guys to stack for the sake of doing so, like doing like a Betts Freeman at the corner of the round 1, that correlation is probably not worth it. But the thing with like baseball is depth of rosters. There's always a stacking piece available. So like at the back end of draft boards, we can always find someone to tack on. Whereas like that's not necessarily the case in football, because all the good pieces are already gone. So you can kind of have your cake and eat it too with baseball.
Yeah.
All right. We are OTC. Is Bo Bichette related to Dante Bichette?
Mm-hmm. His son.
Okay. All right. Nepo baby. All right. All right. What are we doing here? Lots of pitchers.
What do you got in outfield?
Yeah. Outfield, Ramos.
I'd say Bidet.
Okay, Nez loves Bidet. Let's do JJ. And then what else would you add here, Nez?
Probably another pitcher. I think Matt McClain is like a great pick here. Don't get me wrong. Pitching here is like Zach Gallen or Hunter Brown here feels incredible.
those were the two names I was going to share. So, Pete, which would you prefer? There's a little bit more ceiling probably in the Hunter Brown, but Zach Gallen's a consistent workhorse.
I mean, what do you expect, brother?
All right.
If we're taking a solo shot, we're grabbing Hunter.
Leading
Hunter
the
Brown here.
witness. Leading the witness.
Yeah.
So, Nez, talk to me about this bidet character here.
It's bidet. He's not a tush cleaning device, guys.
Hey.
Okay, he's a great. I mean, maybe bidet is a good nickname. Bidets are great inventions. JJ plays on the A's, who I think the A's have like a sneaky, solid offense. Blade gets a rap as being a platoon player. He played every single game he was healthy last year for Oakland. He was a former pretty good prospect, I believe, from Miami, from the Marlins. And they got a park upgrade too in Oakland. So Oakland used to play at the Coliseum in Oakland, California. Now they're playing in Sacramento with similar dimensions to the Coliseum, but better hitting weather, which does, impact these guys. So I think the Oakland offense is just a fun investment. And I would take Blade over most of the outfielders that go ahead of him. Yeah.
All right. I'm sold. And I mean, you called your shot. You said the Oakland A's, one of your sneaky fun teams to watch there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
There's also some cheap backstack guys that go with it. Like someone in the chat right now, Lightning saying Geloff. Like Geloff's probably one of my least favorite of the fun backstack cheap guys, but like we love Shea Langoliers, who hits for a ton of pop and has spike week potential, and Tyler Soderstrom as well. Like two scroll the F down, tack on outfielders in the 20th or infielders in the 20th.
So give me a quick crash course in like the power of correlation and stacking in baseball. Like I can conceptualize some basic stuff, right? Like if somebody hits a grand slam, it means one of his teammates is getting a run. You're seeing those guys. Are you thinking about stacking like where they are in the batting order because they're more likely to be tethered to points being scored? Like how does stacking actually come into play here?
Yeah, I mean, maybe on a seasonal level, we don't get that granular. I mean, it's definitely something to consider that, like, stacking the 2-hole with the 4-hole is better correlation than the 2-hole with the 8-hole or 7-hole or whatever. And we'll do that in our daily stuff. It's really hard to know the consistency of lineup spot this early in the season, especially with handedness of pitcher in which they're facing. So like the correlation patterns are more like, series based, ballpark based. Do they get an added game added to the schedule because of a rain out earlier in the year? Ooh. Now all of a sudden that team has 15 games in the finals or something like that. It's kind of that, and it's taking advantage of like bad teams or teams that you've taxed the bullpen the night before, so now they're going to it. And then the compounding effects of runs in a baseball game is you get up by 10. And the other team will just wave the white flag, and all of a sudden you're hitting off a backup catcher or something like that. And 19 runs in one ball game can outscore an entire week's worth of another team who's in a tough divisional battle for the fucking standings. God, that took me a while to get there.
Yeah, like John said it perfectly, but you do get benefits of stacking even if you're not getting the direct correlation of run to RBI. A la, touchdowns from receivers to quarterbacks, just because if a team is doing well, that extends the game for that offense. So, you could have correlation without having the direct benefits of it. It just gives a player an extra at bat to score points. So you see that a lot with these guys that are not great rate players, but because they play on like the Dodgers, for example, they put up like more fantasy points than most because they have more run and ribby opportunities. Plus, they just get more ABs because they're on good teams.
All right, we're about to pick at the 11-12 turn. We got our 3 pitchers, our 4 infielders, and 3 outfielders. Top of the board has some infielders and pitchers here. What should we be thinking about for the 11-12 turn?
Can we see what's available at outfield here? Is Nolan Jones gone?
No, he's way late.
He's like 150 something.
Yeah,
148.
Yeah, this is where I start doing like. No, this is where I start scrolling for guys I like. But yeah, Nez, who do you like?
Matt Wallner.
Wallner, sure.
Yeah, Wallner hits dongs.
Yep.
Can I do Wallner and Nolan Jones and I just mash up the Nez and John preferences here? Is there something else we need?
Yeah, we might be able to wait on Nolan Jones then. I mean, no, he's definitely not coming back. But if there's a pitcher that kind of jumps out to you more so, I'd be willing to do something like that.
Shane McClanahan is interesting because they said that there was like no question he's opening day starter. So like I think that's a pretty good vote on his health. There was a note that he might only pitch 150 innings, but we can go Nolan Jones too.
Yeah, good with either. Pete, you make the decision.
I'm getting scared. Only four outfielders through 11. I gotta get a fifth here.
I mean, it would. You'd like to know here that this guy was going in the 3rd round, fringe 2nd round pick last year in these drafts, and he plays in the best hitting environment in all of baseball, and he's probably exempt from platoons or at least be strong side, and he hits for big time power and runs.
What's a more John pick than reaching ahead of ADP so you flip the board on Nolan Jones in a single entry contest, assuming ADP stays static for the next 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And Nolan Jones is just going to be paired with the early side of the board, John.
He's definitely going to be a riser. He's undoubtedly going to be a riser here.
Oh, yeah, because you're going to be pounding the table for him on every stream.
Yeah, and there's really good backstack potential with Colorado too, because there's good baseball players who are just kind of a little bit underpriced right now because people forget that when Coors is Coorsing, these guys get drafted as like if Nolan Jones is in a plus matchup at Coors Field on a daily slate, he's a top 10 pick, he's a top 5 pick, he's going with the Otanis of the world and stuff like that. That's the value of Coors Field comparative to other places to play baseball. And like we lose sight of that when we're doing the season long lens. And then all of a sudden you just go, hey, this is the last week of the season and we're in a 1-week sprint to win this contest. Yeah, I want the games that are going to score a buttload of runs. And those are always Coors Field.
Love it. Love it. You got me jacked up on Nolan Jones. Let's see what he looks like.
Yeah, I've been trying to click him more and more. John's propaganda is definitely working on me. Like he was like John said, he was a top 50 pick.
That's a great thumbnail picture right there.
He was a stud prospect too. Part of that trade, like.
Yeah, he had such a great 2023 that like it is hard to just completely write that off, which is what people are really doing. They are just saying that 2023 just never happened for the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So here's our team through 12. Michael King, George Kirby, Hunter Brown at pitcher, Mookie Betts, Austin Riley, Pete Alonso, Ozzie Albies at infield, and finally building out our outfield here, Kyle Schwarber, Christian Yelich, JJ, don't call him Bidet, Matt Wallner, and Nolan went to Holy Ghost Preparatory School. Jones, I just know that because I saw his Wikipedia page when I Googled him. What a name for a school. Holy Ghost Preparatory Academy.
It's almost implied if it's Holy Ghost that it's a preparatory academy.
Yeah, exactly. The Holy Ghost Public School.
Oh, shit. Be scared to go there. The lockers be all creaky and stuff.
Oh, no. What's this comp? Nolan Jones is Anthony Richardson? Oh, boy.
I mean,
OP.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad comp. Like, he's got the ceiling potential, but he's extremely volatile. Another one I'd throw in that conversation is Josh Lowe, who just went there. Like, he's similar in my estimation. I mean, I just really like betting on big ceiling profiles, especially when you have like some good anchors for scoring right now.
Yeah.
All right. We are starting to whip in this draft, not WHIP for all you baseball heads.
Hey,
all right, but we are going to pick at the 13-14 turn. What should we thinking about here? Are we kind of BPA now that we've balanced out our positions?
No, this is when you just start scrolling and start stacking.
Scrolling and stacking.
There's no such thing as best available in baseball, in my opinion.
For stacking, is it literally with anyone on your team, or is stacking more powerful with like non-pitchers, or would you stack an offensive player with a pitcher?
Pitcher stacking basically just doesn't factor in for me. So like I
Okay.
just omit pitchers from stacks.
Gotcha.
Yeah, agreed.
What are we doing
So-
with what do we got for click the purple and then click the outfielder for a second here?
Yeah.
Nez likes Arrighetti. We could probably
I do.
use
I like
another
Yandy
pitcher.
a lot too, but he's an infielder. He's off the screen.
Who should we take with this first pick?
Arrighetti feels fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Add another pitcher here.
I mean, I don't think you need to fill up an infield spot right now when you can just backstack guys. Like Tolia stacks really well. Like Tolia, I'd click Tolia over one-off Diaz for sure.
This guy,
Okay.
Michael,
Yeah. Big
plays
power
in the Coors Field
profile.
of Coors Fields.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yandy's a projection bro pick,
Yeah.
but he
Yanni's
does
like
project really well.
a guy that the Bad X loves every single year, like dome boner through and through kind of guy. That ballpark change might be good for him, like in a vacuum, and for all the Tampa guys in a vacuum, same dimensions as Yankee Stadium. A couple balls might go out for him there.
And it's outside.
Yeah, and it's outside now. But yeah, man, just stacking up a known entity like Coors Field with a guy who's got 35 home run potential in Tolia. Let's go. Switch hitting first baseman.
Let's put these statistical baseball nerds in a locker.
Exactly.
Forget your projection, darling.
Mhm.
We're heading down
Look,
to Coors, building out
it-
the new Blake Street Bombers, folks.
Pete, you're fucking getting it, man. You're getting it. You are fully a baseball bro now. Dark Sheep
I'm
in the
just-
chat saying opposite of a projection pick. Exactly. These are the guys we're betting on.
That's right. What do I say when I do these drafts? IKB. Tuna. Pete, how many drafts do you think you would be doing if I speak? We'll see. Maybe I'll get the bug. I think we should do, this shouldn't be my only baseball draft on off and on the clock. Well, let's commit to doing another baseball show here in a few weeks, and I'll slowly get the bug. I don't want to have 100% Tolia here. I'm gonna have to diversify my exposures a little bit.
Yeah.
I can't have 100% exposure to Nolan Jones, the Anthony Richardson of MLB. I'm gonna have to diversify a little bit.
Yeah. I would recommend it. I would recommend
it. Do you guys if you're scanning a board and you're trying to be like, if you're like, ooh, I like that draft, or oh, he crushed that draft. Like what are the things you're looking for?
I have like very specific players that I enjoy drafting. But I'm looking at Jack at what is that, pick 9 with the Corbin Carroll, Jarren Duran start. That's a pretty sick little start there. Getting those two outfielders to Marte, to Corbin Burns, Profar, Sale, Naylor. Those are like all my guys.
Profar, gross. Unstacked Profar?
That's a no-no.
That's a no-no. That's like the epitome of a fucking no-no.
Oh,
he's an accumulator.
Yeah.
George Springer.
The team must be terrible.
He also took Bo Bichette. This is just a Nepo baby team. Dante Bichette's kid, George Springer's kid. I mean, fine.
No, we have a lot of Nepo babies. You could pretty much draft like 20 Nepo babies.
Wait, is that actually Jerry Springer's kid?
No.
Okay. No. All right. You let it slide in a way that made me think for a second.
Hold on. No. George fell off a little bit, sadly.
I was gonna say, wasn't he? I feel like he was more of a name in years past.
Yeah, he won a couple World Series, but ever since he went to Toronto, things have not been looking up for old George here. He had back-to-back pretty disappointing seasons, so he goes where he goes now, and even still, I don't even love the ADP for George Springer.
Canada, where all talent goes to die.
Yep.
It's where mine stays to die. Is it crazy to say, like, just straight up, I think I like Varsho better? He goes 80 picks later.
I mean, like, no, I can understand it. I can definitely understand it. Varsho had a weird year last year. I remember him being way more hurt than he was. Yeah, I still think I would take Springer, but I do think it's closer than ADP would have people believe.
Yeah. Pete, let's take a look at what's available here because we're gonna be doing some scrolling and stuff. What's available at pitcher right now?
Pitcher, we got another Seattle guy up here. A couple Phillies.
I think we're gonna have to get at least one because it does. I don't know. It kind of already has fallen off a cliff. There's a name that I'm thinking of that I don't want to say yet, but I think he might have already gone. Yeah, he just went. Dan took him. Pivetta. So Pavetta's shooting up. He's got an ADP of 61. He's usually a guy that in most lobbies you can sneak by still in like the 16th or 17th round.
Yeah, I forgot about Pivetta.
So that would have given us two San Diego pitchers to Astros.
Yeah, it would have been helpful.
Yeah, there's some good pitchers available still, though. But the Pivetta, this little sweet spot here for pitching as like the second run on pitching is like a spot where I like to get Brandon Pfaadt and Nick Pivetta. And if I can get both of them, it's great. If I can get one of them and get to 5 or 6 with one of them, it's fun.
And Pfaadt is spelled Pfaadt, as I'm sure you knew, Pete.
He's gonna be gone.
He did go.
I'd take Jesus Luzardo here.
That's some upside. That's some upside that untapped, majorly untapped. Haven't really seen good baseball out of him. Well, you saw it 2 years ago. Last year was a disaster, but probably can rebound in Philly. I like the pick.
All right, let's take Jesus. Where are we going with this next pick? Our 16th round pick.
I'd probably say outfield.
Scroll back up a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of Varsho unstacked. You could do like Walker and then stack something later.
Yeah, I would say Jordan Walker. He's Jordan Walker, and you're gonna hate this comp. Very Kyle Pitts-esque.
For baseball. Baby.
That's a good comp.
I now have the Anthony Richardson and Kyle Pitts of MLB. Can't lose.
The difference is Kyle Pitts kind of did it once. Jordan Walker has yet to do it at the major league level.
He did it for 1 week. He was the hottest player on planet Earth for the very first week he ever got called up, and then he just fell off a cliff since then.
But I think he's like, is he even 23? No, he's not even 23 yet.
Yeah.
And he was very enthusiastic in an interview talking about how he changed his swing. So I can buy that. He was awesome in the minor league levels. I really thought that he was going to be something special, and he ended last year on a pretty positive note as well. So the fact that he's like back here just makes him a pretty easy pick if you're searching for outfielders. For his projections, he's definitely like a good pick if you believe the projections.
Well, I wasn't a projection bro last round, but after taking Walker, become a pretty big projection.
You got to put on your rose-colored glasses back in these rounds for sure.
Pete, what are we working with right now? Do we have 5 starting pitchers? 5,
yeah,
5, or what do we got?
Yeah, we have 5, 5, 6. I can do a quick read off here. Michael King, George Kirby, Hunter Brown, Spencer Arrighetti, and then Jesus. Infielders, Mookie Betts, Austin Riley, Pete Alonso, Ozzie Albies, and Michael, how did you pronounce it? Tolia?
Yep.
Nailed it. Outfielder, Kyle Schwarber, Christian Yelich, JJ, don't call him Bidet, Matt Wellner, Nolan went to Holy Preparatory, Jones, and Jordan, Kyle Pitts Walker.
Not bad. There was definitely some starker runs at starting pitcher in this being a single entry and a $75 price point with some good drafters. We definitely saw pitcher get pushed up a little bit heavier than we have in other rooms. Like your prototypical dinger room, you could probably still find some guys that we liked at starting pitcher like a bit later here. But yeah, like Brandon Pfaadt getting pushed up, Tosh Bradley getting pushed up, Nick Pivetta getting pushed up. kind of guys all gravitating to the similar profiles and targets that every one of us in the ball knowers kind of like, right?
Yeah.
Well, and this is what is this the highest dollar contest on the site for best ball?
Yeah, right now,
But
yes.
it makes sense. People are going to want to go out and get their guys in this one.
Yeah.
Don't do what the 2-hole just did there with the Emmanuel Clase pick. Closers have no value on our site, even the best one on planet Earth.
Yeah, very, very interesting. You got to love when that happens. Yeah.
So okay, so this guy, anytime he comes in, you're saying most he's playing is a couple innings.
1 inning.
One, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, just literally undraftable. But he's
Yeah.
a name that many people know, and people sort of kind of lose sight sometimes. Like there's a very traditional fantasy baseball crowd that is used to drafting for different categories, and one of those categories being saves and getting good closers, as Emmanuel Clase is, good relief pitchers. So sometimes they make these oopsie daisy picks, like Emmanuel Clase in the 16th round or whatever that was.
You wouldn't catch me making that pick.
Never you, Pete.
We just lost Lars Dupar, who was going to be like our de facto stack with Jordan Walker, which is kind of unfortunate.
What I'm noticing, Dan, who I met in Dallas for the Dog Bowl, continues to snipe us. So me no likey Dan anymore.
Dan knows ball. Dan knows ball.
I have a suggestion if we were looking to stack.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the same name. I hope. I just put it in the private chat.
Wow, this is how we know this means something. We're putting it in the private chat.
Yeah, we're protecting your $75 bullet here.
Best ball sniper.
Yeah.
Yeah, Viper's a full-fledged sniper. I would take the one we just put in the chat there, Nez, and I would take and I would take this guy too. All
right, so we got Wilson with 2 L's here for our St. Louis stack.
Yep.
Yeah, he hits the ball really hard. He's a good baseball player. We don't love drafting catchers because they project for like 100 less at ABs, but he might be getting some DH at bats and or be a trade piece. So
and he's going to play first base.
There you go.
Yeah, Dark Sheet put me onto Wilson. I had Cardinals blinders on for Wilson Contreras, and then the first base opportunities and how well he played last year has me excited. And I would agree with Brandon Woodruff. Brandon Woodruff has injury concerns, but it wasn't an elbow; it was a lat issue last year. When he was playing and pitching, he's one of my favorite pitchers to watch. Really good swing and miss fastball stuff. So it's really just a bet on his health, and he's just an absolute smash. Like you just take that risk in the 18th round for Brandon Woodruff.
Yeah, because like the epitome of that, Nez, is the fact that Nolan's in the chat right now saying Woodruff's an 18th rounder. Crazy, what the heck? Because Pete, this is a guy for the last 5+ years we've been accustomed to taking in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, like that sort of thing. Oh. Yes, we are hounding right now. Yeah, he's the injury concerns and like the walk rate and stuff. Like he's typically been a very good control guy, and then last year it kind of like things just weren't right. Things just weren't right. So betting on a little bit of a bounce back here.
Okay, so we got 2 more picks. We're at a 6-6-6. Good thing these aren't 18-round drafts. I would not want to be drafting the Devil's structure repeatedly. Positionally, where do we think we're going to be going these last 2 picks?
See, this is where I would just be stacking at places of where we think we're lacking depth. I think one pitcher for sure, and then we could have a debate about outfield versus infield. Definitely the strength of our team.
We've recovered that outfield?
I mean, I think so. Nez will tell you to take 7th outfielder, I believe, on this team.
Definitely.
Mine will be relative to who's available to stack.
Okay. John's willing to go with John Mechie as his wide receiver 4.
A Canadian kid.
Yeah, I'd feel more comfortable with 7 outfielders on this team. Like Jordan Walker as our 6th and last outfielder and Nolan Jones as our 5th outfielder is a little scary. Plus Christian Yelich injury stuff. Like I just think it's thin. I think we could use a seventh.
Sure. Let's pull up the outfield and pitcher tabs there, Pete, and see what we're working with.
Let's see here.
This is basically the bull case for early outfield is the situation in which we're in right now. Is like if you think you have to go to 7, like the infield names are just like so much better right now. Like you could put Carlos Correa on this, who's like a perennial all-star, gonna play shortstop every single day and stacks with Wallner, and it's like, oh yes, chef's kiss to a 7th infielder. But when you put an outfielder on it, it's way harder to find a stacking partner or like a profile that's gonna be shoot the moon with playing time.
What if I said, hey, we treat Brandon Woodruff like he returns to his old form and we're getting second, third round value from pick 205. Now, all of a sudden, we wrap this up with John's infield values and an outfielder to shore up our outfield room.
You could definitely do it, but the rate at which like the pitcher position tends to get hurt, I think you want to condiment a little bit with a pitcher here and give yourself an opportunity at 2 starts in the postseason too. Not as important in a 720 person contest versus like the big dinger, but I think you just want an out for another start in the finals.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm team 7-6-7 here.
Okay. All right. Get rid of the infielders.
Yeah, dude, I'm taking Correa. I'm sorry.
No, we were.
There you go.
We got rid of infielders from our board here. We talked it through. What about a little Yu Darvish?
Decent park to pitch in. He's a little long in the tooth. He'll get every opportunity in the world to get to 120 innings, but probably not my favorite target in this back end.
All right. Way to let me down easy. Max Scherzer. Wasn't he a guy that was like a 2nd or 3rd round pick back in the day?
Sure was.
Yeah, in like 2021, I think, maybe 20.
Oh yeah, back when baseball was actually good. All right, who are we taking with these 2 picks?
Gavin Williams feels good. Let's do pitcher first because it kind of matters less. Reese
I'm
Olson,
a Nestor Cortez guy.
Yeah, Nestor too. Yeah, down.
I'm searching.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've been taking a lot of nasty nectar too. Nestor. I say it every time. Nectar.
Is that a Canadian nickname or is that his actual nickname? Nasty.
He is Nasty Nestor.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Nez. Let me just get a
pirate. You want to shoot the moon here? You want to go fun rookie? Type in Chase.
Chase DeLauder.
DeLauder. Yeah, this has been my my 20th round outfielder of choice right now. Somebody asked about the B word for baseball. We're a baseball show, but I like this guy for rookie of the year. Pretty nice O words on him. But Chase man just has really nice bat to ball skills. I think that there's not too many outfielders in his way for playing time. Yeah, he's been tearing up the minor leagues. I am very much into Sir Chase in the 20th round.
All right, I like that little alpha there at the end. All right, we have 20 rounds for us in the books. As this draft wraps up, I'll list off our final 7-6-7. You guys tell me how I did on my solo shot, my quest to win 10K with a single bullet against some of the MLB Sharks on Underdog. Our pitchers, Michael King, George Kirby, Hunter Brown, Spencer Arrighetti, Jesus himself, Brandon Woodruff will return to form in that nasty man, Nestor Cortez. Mookie Betts, the Red Sox never should have traded him. Austin Riley, Pete Alonso, Ozzy Albiz, Michael Tolia, Wilson Contreras, Kyle Schwarber, Christian Yelich, JJ Bidet, Matt Wallner, Nolan Jones, Jordan Walker, and a future Rookie of the Year, Chase DeLauder. Did we hit it out of the park, fellas?
We had fun.
Yeah, we had fun.
Oh my God, you hate this team, Nez.
No, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Oh my God. Where did we go wrong, Nez?
I think the Pete Alonso pick should have been an outfielder, but otherwise, this team is really strong at the infield, and if we took some big swings with some discounted guys, this team has a chance to potentially be the highest scoring team in the solo shot as in its range of outcomes. How's that?
Yes, all I heard is you just said we should have taken Tank Dell instead of Derrick Henry. That's all I heard you say.
Yep, that's exactly what it was.
John,
like
are you more bullish on this team?
Yeah, I'm more bullish on it than Nez. It's the roster construction I like, with the exception of the last pick. I would have picked a accumulator. I don't think you need to shoot the moon on a guy who might get 50 at bats this year in this contest. I would have taken just some safety to fill out the roster. But in general, this is kind of how I like to build. I don't mind taking the Pete Alonsos of the world and getting strong at outfield there, because just the production that you're going to get from them is 200 to 300 points higher than some of the outfielders in that range. And the ceiling in an isolated week of Pete Alonso versus insert Pete Crow Armstrong, for instance.
Those are 50 pick differences, but
oh, they weren't beside each other. Who was it? Ian Happ. It was the Cub I was thinking of. All right. I'll just take Pete Alonso every day and figure it out.
This was ultimately just a vehicle for me to kind of see I could pull out, the little controversies between how Nez and John are attacking baseball drafts.
Yeah, they've been quite open this year in terms of our discussions. It makes for good dinger drafts between the two of us, because this is probably the most polarizing and different Nez and I have ever been on a sport. Usually we kind of funnel to similar ideas and whatever. This year, for whatever reason, I'm approaching baseball significantly different than he is, and vice versa.
Yeah, makes for good content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, get your popcorn, folks. We'll see if they can survive the MLB season. All right, beautiful stuff, guys. If you're tuning in late live, we did go through some resources at the top of the show. I'll have some timestamps down below as well. Tried to do kind of a crash course for newbies like myself. Are there any other things you guys would like to say for people who are wanting to dip their toes in the MLB waters? One thing I'll mention here is the eliminator contests. How much of the strategy changes for that? And also the little eliminator is very close to filling.
Yeah, I think you're going to want to, treat it sort of like NFL, eliminator ass picks become way more viable. And, I would definitely avoid people that don't have clean bills of health in the last 2 years in the MLB eliminator as well. And you can take some of those slap hitters that we were talking about that are not necessarily home run merchants in the eliminator as well. That said, you still have to win the very final week with a high score. But I'm obviously, very much like NFL, very much floor focused with the eliminator. And that goes for pitching as well. I'm less concerned about high upside pitching and just guys that have been healthy and throw a lot of innings. So I know they're going to be out there.
Yeah, and those back end outfielder picks that you're making and stuff, the platoon guys are a little more palatable in the eliminator, just because you don't need absolute ceiling. You just need benchmark 35 fantasy points in isolated weeks to get there. So taking guaranteed playing time seems really good. The Matt Vierlings of the world and these boring ass guys.
All right, there you go. When can people find their next MLB content from the Badge Bros if they're not satiated from this stream?
Probably tomorrow. I mean, we're going to do 3 more shows this week. Thursday is going to be the return of Hoops, big Hoops slate on Thursday. So yeah, between Wednesday and Friday, one is going to be football and one's going to be baseball, or maybe a little bit of both.
Awesome. Keep an eye out for that. I don't have any shows tomorrow. I'll be back on Thursday. On Lowell's, we're having Utica back on.
Oh, nice.
It was last time he was on. He had the infamous the brain, or the Sims are in my brain line. So it'll
Knowing
be good.
Ball is the projection.
Knowing Ball is the projection. Yeah, had some absolute bangers there. So excited to talk to him. And then Pat and I will be back in the saddle for ship chasing. Haven't figured out what we're going to do yet, but that show will be there. And then Friday evening, my After Dark show, I'm having Blender, Jordan Cooper on. I haven't done a show with him in forever. So excited to catch up with him. Always a smart, entertaining guest. So if you guys are YouTube members on my channel, you'll have access to that. Otherwise, hop in the Deposit Kingdom, take advantage of those that baseball thread there within the Badge Bros if you guys are looking to get caught up to speed. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week and good luck in these Dinger and MLB streets. For Nez, for John, I'm Pete. We'll see you guys next time on Off and On the Clock.